Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. We're going to get started momentarily, but as you guys come in, we want to make sure that you guys let us know exactly where you're tuning in from. So go ahead and drop in the chat where you're tuning in from, and continue to engage with one another, and we'll get started momentarily. All right, I see those responses coming in. We have Pennsylvania, Atlanta, of course, St. Louis is always representing. Dallas, Texas. I think, Fern, you may have some followers coming in from Dallas to support you. Atlanta, Alpharetta, Delaware. Yes, thank you guys. If you're just tuning in, make sure you go ahead and engage with one another in the chat and let us know exactly where you're tuning in from. We hope to see some new cities coming in. I see Jersey and Nashville. We're excited to have you all. So continue to engage with one another. I'll go ahead and get started. So good afternoon, everyone, again, and thank you for joining ITSMF Virtual Leadership Series, ITSMF Black History Makers. My name is Sherelle Bailey, and I serve as the Director of Events for ITSMF. And for those of you all that may be joining us for the first time and may not be familiar with ITSMF, our goal and mission is to prepare professionals for executive roles in technology to impact organizational innovation and growth. And we do this by developing and nurturing these dynamic leaders through enrichment of the mind, body, and soul. So before we dive too deep into today's panel discussion, I want to take a moment and invite our President and CEO, Johanna Jones, for a few remarks.
Thank you so much, Sherelle. Welcome, everyone, to this celebration of Black History Month. We are thrilled that you have joined this extraordinary event, ITSMF Black History Makers. Today, we'll highlight the remarkable achievements of these pioneering professionals who've made significant contributions, broken barriers in the technology industry. You'll hear their inspiring journeys, their challenges that they've overcome, and their most impactful work. This is an opportunity for everyone to learn from these trailblazers. We'll all gain valuable insights into navigating the tech industry and be motivated by their successes. As we all strive to be leaders that reach our highest potential, drive innovation and business growth, while still creating work environments where all people can succeed. Let us gain insight and wisdom on how to achieve that. Our speakers and moderators today are tech champions, advocates and proponents of tech, and the leaders who drive it. I was most recently amused by my 2-year-old niece robustly singing, "We are the champions, we are the champions, no time for losers, we are the champions." She sang so loudly and proudly, I wondered if she really knew and understood what the word champion means. I thought about all of the champions that I know, the founders of ITSMF, pioneering executives who 29 years ago were CIOs of companies like Disney, IBM, Xerox. One of the first people in the country to have the title Chief Information Officer was an ITSMF founder. The fellows of ITSMF are championed. Our board of directors, the management team, our distinguished faculty, and our corporate partner executive sponsors are champions. I had the pleasure of working for an Olympic champion and became intimately aware of the behaviors of champion. Jackie Joyner-Kersee, a 6-time Olympic medalist, an International Hall of Famer, and someone who 40 years after their last Olympic appearance, still has a record in the heptathlon. She built a state-of-the-art youth complex, a STEAM complex in a part of East St. Louis that no one else invested in. 30 years after her last Olympic appearance, she still worked out every day, ate extremely healthy, mostly veggies and salads, and every now and then a soup. She never drank. She's disciplined beyond measure, always an exacting vision for how things should be perfect, always extremely early for every meeting, every event, and always one of the last to leave, always striving to learn and be better in some way, shape, or form, and requiring that of everyone around her. Do you know how hard it was to go to the most amazing restaurants and events and try to eat healthy because of who I'm with and say no to drinks? That discipline, that relentless curiosity and pursuit of learning, improvement, grit, and commitment to bringing out the best in others, that commitment to excellence is the behavior of technology champions, confident, always pursuing a goal and vision for the future. I was recently amazed by two ITSMF C-level executives. I'll call them middle-aged. They may not want me to, but they climbed Mount Kilimanjaro together a couple years ago. Think about the travel schedule of a C-level executive with global responsibility, the pressure, the alignment of your mind and body to perform optimally under pressure and still bring out the best in others. I once tried to run a 5K with Jackie Joyner-Kersee. She told me we were going to walk it 3.1 miles and our goal is to get there in under 40 minutes. Not realizing this Olympic champion is one of the most competitive people in the world. So all it took was two boasting jocks to make her take off running, and I could not lose her. She crossed the finish line effortlessly, graceful, not breaking a sweat, not panting. And it took everything in me to finish running, and I was down for the rest of the weekend recovering. Last year, I tried to follow Robert Scott across the country, going to as many Global Institute for Professional Development graduations as I could. Last year, we graduated nearly 800 leaders. But this is a man who spent decades in a C-level role for Procter & Gamble, leading a global team in Europe. So he was used to the rigor of traveling, showing up, delivering, and multitasking. I had to spend the holidays almost in silence, reading, staring at the wall to mentally recover. And yet, another example of that is our relentless ITSMF board chair, Ibrahim Jackson, up at 4 a.m. every day, working out, thinking, sending text messages while he's on his way to the gym, 7 days a week. And who's on speed dial in his text? Johanna Jones. I could tell you 500 more leadership stories about the champions in our community. I am reading Leaders Make the Future, 10 New Skills to Humanize Leadership and Generative AI. One of my favorite quotes so far in the book is, leaders need to be able to seed, nurture, and grow shared assets that benefit more players and allow competition at a higher level. And we are doing that. I want to thank you to all of our history-making champions for joining us today. We will all be better for the time that you are giving us. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Johanna. I feel inspired and motivated. So, thank you. And thank you to your niece for reminding us that we are, in fact, the champions. So, for those of you guys that are watching us live, we are going to replay this. And so, I want to encourage you guys to find someone that did not. That was not able to attend this live and remind them that they can rewatch this replay because they do not want to miss today's panel discussion. They do not want to miss the words that Johanna gave us today. So this will be available. So find somebody, send them the link, tell them to make sure that they re-watch today's virtual leadership series. So today's panel discussion will feature ITSMF members who have made significant contributions and broken barriers in the technology industry. This discussion will highlight the remarkable achievements of these pioneering professionals and leaders, providing insights into their journeys, challenges, and impactful work. By joining us today, you'll have the opportunity to learn from their experiences, gain insights into navigating the tech industry, and be motivated by their trailblazing success. So before I introduce our moderator, I want to remind you guys that we will have Q&A immediately following this session. So should you have questions for our panelists, we invite you to put them in the chat during Q&A and we'll answer them live. But of course, we always encourage you guys to continue to engage with one another throughout the conversation. So our moderator for today is Fern Johnson. She is an accomplished executive and business leader. After 33 years of service, Fern recently retired from PepsiCo in February of 2025. Her immediate past IT executive role was CTO, Vice President, a role that she held since January 2021. In addition to her work within the IT organization, Fern was an active participant and champion of PepsiCo's diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. Her efforts in this area led to best practices and programs in diversity, which affected positive change, helped advance the careers of hundreds of employees, and vastly improved the organization. She also sits on several boards and advisory councils, ITSMF, of course, the GEMS Camp, DFW Alliance of Technology and Women, and is a board of trustee for the Dallas Museum of Arts. Please join me in welcoming our moderator, Fern Johnson.
Good afternoon, family. It's so good to be here. Sherelle, thank you for that warm introduction. And Johanna, your words, girl, just were amazingly inspiring. And we're so excited to kind of move forward with that energy into this change makers discussion that we're going to have today. So it is my pleasure to introduce two panelists who are blazing the trail, have blazed the trail, and will continue to do so. So first, we're going to introduce Ms. Cato James, and she is the Partner and Global Chief Information Officer at McKinsey & Company. Cato, welcome. Thank you for being here. Let me read just a little bit about your super impressive background. So Cato was the Global Chief Information Officer at McKinsey & Company, where she leads technology and digital organization, the technology arm that designs, develops, and manages the cutting-edge technologies that empowers the firm and the colleagues worldwide to shape a future work. She leads teams to advance operational excellence, enhance collaboration, deliver exceptional outcomes for both colleagues and the clients. From overseeing global device management, office technology, improving colleague productivity, championing new digital experience, and driving a global CRM, finance, payroll transformations, her work is really redefining how McKinsey operates, collaborates, and delivers value. So she's all over the technology, she's scaling capabilities. Before joining McKinsey in 2023, Cato was a Global Chief Operations Officer for Deloitte Technology, where she led global IT operations and IT governance, transformation, enterprise architecture, enterprise data, innovation strategies. So with over 20 years of information technology experience, she is consistently delivering transformative results from full lifecycle software development and organizational change tech strategy. Cato is actually also an actual active board member of the Boys and Girls Club of America and NPower, and she also serves on the Georgia Future Business Leaders of America and member of Georgia Department of Educational Information Technology Advisory Committee, Georgia CIO, and a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Originally from Huntsville, Alabama, Cato currently resides in Atlanta, and I believe she's in Atlanta today.
I am. Thank you, Fern.
You're welcome. Our next trailblazer Black history maker is Mr. Kenny Coleman, if we welcome him to the stage. Kenny, thank you for joining us this afternoon. Kenny is the Senior Vice President and CIO at Centerpoint Energy. He has a 25-year record of success, driving economic development and industry-leading revenue growth through building coalitions, driving new product growth, enhancing brands, leveraging relationships, and improving organizational performance. He excels at building and leading high-performing teams, strategy development, and building organizational reputation. Positioned Georgia Power Company as a leader solar generation by developing and implementing strategy, growing renewable energy by over 13 times over in a 5-year period. That's one of his major accomplishments. He's also spearheaded efforts to develop and implement a holistic electronic vehicle penetration strategy for Georgia Power Company, and it's become the fastest growing market for electronic vehicles in the US during his tenure. He's orchestrated efforts to help the city of Atlanta achieve their desired sustainability goals through development of a smart cities partnership with Georgia Power and City, and developed a strategy to help the city achieve its desire for 100% energy from renewables by 2035. So he is leading teams, he is driving things in the community. He served as chairman of a $1 billion community-wide economic development program called Imagine the Greater Montgomery that led to more than 10,000 new jobs and over $2 billion in new capital investment. So this brother is making changes not only in technology, in the energy sector, and in the community. So Kenny, welcome to our conversation today.
Thank you, Fern. Excited to be here.
So as you guys can see, we have two powerhouse leaders who are Black change makers, our own Black change makers and trailblazers who are leading the trail. Can you guys talk to us a little bit about your career journey? What was the highlight and or the pivot point for you that got you to where you are today? Cato?
Oh, well, probably I've had a great career and lots of highlights, but the highlight I think I'll recognizing the one that got me to the seat I'm in today is probably joining Deloitte, meeting Larry Quinlan, having true sponsorship and development. That is what led me to the seat that I sit in now as CIO of McKinsey.
You couldn't have a better answer. When we did this series last year, I talked with Larry Quinlan, and he's just a phenomenal leader. So I completely agree. Kenny, how about yourself? What were the major career pivot points for you that kind of got you to where you are today?
Yeah, thanks, Fern, for the question. As you might have heard in my introduction, I've got a non-traditional CIO background. I've spent a good bit of time in sales and marketing, good bit of time in economic development, a good bit of time in regulatory and governmental affairs. And, you know, each of those jobs taught me something. Something about our business, which for me, for the most part, has been the utility space. Something about leadership, had a chance to learn from each of those leaders. I love Cato's comment about Larry Quinlan. He's been one of the people who I listen to. I kind of call him E.F. Hutton. You know, when he speaks, people listen. Very, very wise man, and I've learned a good bit from him. So I've been able to build mentors along the way. And I think the pivotal point for me in my career was actually becoming CIO at Southern Company. At the time, I hadn't had very much IT experience. And the CEO at the time called me to congratulate me. And I jokingly said to him, I said, you know, I'm not sure I can spell IT very well. And what he told me was that, look, he said, stay out of the data centers. Don't go touching servers. You've worked all over the corporation. Help make sure that we're leveraging the technology in the direction that we need to go and not where we've been. And so a big part of my career has been helping to figure out what the resources, technology, and our organization, how do we make sure we're marching towards the future and not the past?
No, I think that's spot on. And, you know, marching toward the future, you know, it's When we're technologists, we want to put our hands in touch, and sometimes it's really to say, okay, that's not our role. Let's step up and do the strategy and make sure the organization is moving in the right direction. So appreciate that comment. So we're here with ITSMF, and they have helped us all. Nonprofits, I think, have a huge impact in helping us on our career. Can you tell us a little bit around how this organization has helped you either shape you as an executive and had a part in your career? Kenny?
Yeah, I think there's two big things that at least I've gotten thus far from ITSMF. And one of them is the opportunity to learn. I mentioned Larry Quinlan earlier. There are other legendary ITSMF members like Martin Davis and others who have allowed me to ask those questions that maybe you don't want anybody to hear that you're asking, and to give you a chance to kind of learn and gain from their experience. And so, one of the biggest things I've gotten is the opportunity to learn. And at the conferences, being able to talk to various members about issues that we're facing was tremendous. I think the other thing, and maybe the most important thing that ITSMF has allowed me to do, is to help people. It's given me an opportunity to find and identify some folks who have talent, maybe being underutilized, who have interests in other places, and either hire in some cases or forward resumes on with some commentary to people who could also help them. And so I love that aspect about our organization where you get a chance to know people where they are and hopefully help where you can.
No, I love that. And I'll just add in a little anecdote there. So I've been now with ITSMF for, I want to say about 17 years. And for the first half of that, I just received all that good juju and that loving and that education and that networking. And then I said, it's time for me to give back. And getting engaged with Management Academy and being a mentor and then helping and talking with others in our great organization has been life-changing and game-changing, just in expanding my network, but also continuing that learning development with our peers. So that peer-based learning is really key. So I'm excited about the impact that ITSMF has had for me, and it sounds like for you as well. Kato, how about yourself? Anything has had in helping, shaping, and develop your career or in giving back?
Definitely, for sure. So you read my bio, but I'm not sure people know I spent 18 years at EY before going to Deloitte, and I knew nothing about ITSMF. I was the only Black PPMD, which is our partner level role in technology across the entire globe. And I was that for 6 years at EY. Came to Deloitte, met Larry, of course, who brought me to Deloitte and introduced me to ITSMF. And it has given me community, a huge community of resources and friends and and colleagues that support me, whether it's Michael Buckham-White, Doug Ash, Noreen Coren-White. There's just so many I can't even name, but that community that helped me figure out how to navigate in the executive world. And I was no longer the only one. So it really changed the trajectory of my career. Like I really gained a set of confidences that I didn't have all those years being the only one. And that community, not only from being able to learn from them individually, but attending conferences, the learning that you gain there and seeing that there's such a wide range of different skill sets and so many of us that are in technology, it really changed my perspective. So I constantly get mentoring still to this day from that entire group. And it was really those connections, I think, that led me to, I think, the second pivotal moment in my career is that's meeting Jackie Wright, who I work for right now at McKinsey, who I think without those ITSMF connections, without me having that list of references, without Larry being pivotal in my life, I don't know that she would have, invested in me the way that she has. So ITSMF has definitely been pivotal for my career and continues to be daily.
What do you, let's build on that just a little bit. I think we want to continue to champion the organization. And I'm going somewhere with this question, so bear with me for a second. I just want to hear from you how we can continue your perspective on, actually, I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to ask the question around the burning topic of the day around how we are moving towards inclusion. And we've always been about representation, but you know that what's happening in our environment, the word D and E is being taken out of what we've typically called diversity, equity, and inclusion. Can you tell me how that's impacting you in the work you're doing, if it's impacting you at all? And then we'll come back to how do we champion this organization in this climate? Kenny?
Sure. I'll be happy to start. So I think, Fern, it's a great question, and I think we're in for some pretty interesting times. I think ultimately, especially for people of color, we're going to have to just do the work, right? Without the public sentiment behind diversity and equity, it may take away from some of the incentives that our corporations may have had to dig a little deeper in the candidate pool or take chances on someone who may have 75, 90% of what they're looking for, and to take those chances. But I think for those of us who are in the positions to be able to hire, to be able to offer developmental opportunities, to be able to offer counsel and guidance, right? That it's going to be really incumbent upon us to continue to do that work, to identify solid candidate pools that are diverse, to continue to identify opportunities for people to better position themselves, whether that is image or whether that is diversity of experience. I mean, we've got to continue, I think, to help our folks find those opportunities, and just do the work. I do think that ultimately that corporations will get back to, let me not say get back, I think they do today, recognize the value of having their workforce representative of their customer bases. But I think, we'll have to, in the interim, in this political climate today, I think it's going to be more incumbent on us to really drive that work home. Whether we champion it or talk about it, shout it from the rooftops, or whether we just get down and do the work, I think we still have to do it.
Totally agree. And the climate is very tenuous. And I love you putting it simple. It's almost as simple as Nike, just do it. We just have to do the work. It doesn't have to be on the front of the stage. It can just happen, and make sure that we keep true to our north of excellence, and make sure that we are continuing to support each other the right way. So what is your perspective around this climate and what it means to your role and your career and what you're able to do in your organization?
Well, inclusion is critical, but without diversity and equity, it really lacks the structural integrity to really create any change. If we remove diversity, we're going to risk overlooking the need for intentional representation. If we remove equity, we risk ignoring the systemic barriers that really keep people from advancing. So true inclusion requires us to be specific and intentional about who we're including, how we're including them, and whether the environment is really equitable enough for them to thrive. So to me, I'm looking at this as a shift in language. It challenges me to really double down on my commitment to ensuring that diverse voices, especially Black women, are heard, seen, and valued. It's not enough to just open the door. We still have to continue to make sure people feel welcomed, supported, and given the tools to succeed. So my leadership is going to remain focused on making inclusion more than just a concept. It's really going to be about ensuring that same access to leadership, mentorship, and career mobility is equitable, so that when we talk about inclusion, we're really doing it in a way that leads to real measurable change, the way it has, for me.
So shifting the language. I'm sorry, go ahead, Kenny.
Well, I was going to say, Cato brought up something, a tremendous point, that whether or not we are, all the folks who are on this meeting today are in positions to formally lead or formally promote or hire, all of us can do what Cato talked about in helping to make sure the environments that we're in, that we're drawing people, making sure we're drawing people into the conversation, that people don't just happen to fade into the background because they think they aren't valued or their opinions because of the political environment are no longer important. I think it's important for all of us to make sure we continue to draw people into the various conversations that we're in daily.
Couldn't agree more. And I like what you said, Kato, around shifting the language. And I'm actually pulling together a little bit of what you both said. Let's shift the language, but still do the work and still drive meaningful impact and bring people closer in. But inclusion still has to happen if we're going to address representation, which is still a challenge for minorities of color, people of color, Blacks in tech. And so that is still, we can't lose sight that representation is still not where it needs to be. So what then? So then that's now bridging the gap and the question around how ITSMF can help. How can we help still champion this organization in this climate, in these waters?
Good, Kato, I'll let you start.
Okay. So while the climate has changed, I think we all know the need for community doesn't change. And so I think the core mission of ITSMF is still valid, even in a time where within this climate, no one's saying that you can't drive community. It's equity, so having this community is still going to make a vast difference. I mean, at the end of the day, the reason I'm in my seat today is because representation does matter. I work for a Black female who chose me, not just because of certainly because of my history and my skill set, but also because I look a bit like her. So at the end of the day, this community that we have formed here at ITSMF, a lot of leaders, we still have the same power that we had yesterday that we will have tomorrow to make choices on who we invest in, who we hire. And this community is going to be even more important as a pool to reach back to find the right candidate for the role and have some confidence in that person's skill set to help prove their certainly the ability to perform it in a role, because we have this community where we know that they have the appropriate training, that we trust the group that we're in. So I think ITSMF today is more important than it even was before this change.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I was going to lean on the increasing importance, I think, of ITSMF, particularly around the community. It will become more challenging, I think, for some of us, as I described earlier, to continue to engage and stay in the forefront. I think ITSMF offers an opportunity for a critical opportunity for people like us to be able to engage in conversations around what's happening next, et cetera. I think, too, one of the opportunities for our organization is to really lean into finding best-in-class training opportunities. You can't sit in a boardroom today and not have AI or Gen AI come up as a topic. And I think our opportunity is to help make sure more of our members are positioned and ready for those conversations as they come up. And so I think us continuing to find opportunities to bring best-in-class training to the organization may be even more critical tomorrow than it was yesterday. And then continuing to showcase the talent and successes that our members have had. We've got tremendously successful members supported by this organization with tremendous stories in really all disciplines. And I think continuing to showcase those on an even broader perspective may be really helpful, particularly in this latest climate.
Well, as not to do a promo, but I know that we are now offering an AI certification through our partner with Alicia Little's organization and AI Innovations. So hopefully folks have signed up for that, because I agree, staying ever vigilant on the technology so that we are ready and we're staying ready is important. And the other piece I wanted to loop into this, how do we continue our mission and our vision is, we give a sense of community, belonging, and a safe space. And I think that you guys talked about, that's even more important in the climate that we're dealing with. All right, so let me just pivot a little bit and talk about technology and maintaining relevant longevity. And with technology changing as aggressively as it is, I think it was just maybe less than 48 hours, Claude came out with Sonnet, the new version. And so it's as DeepSeek is getting better, Claude's getting better, ChatGPT is getting better. They're all, increasing in their capability and being competitive. What are you doing from a tech side first, and then second from a leadership side to stay current, to stay vigilant, to stay sharp with all that you have on your plate? Kato?
Yeah. So to me, longevity in tech isn't about just keeping up. It's about staying ahead. Technology moves so fast, and to remain relevant, you really have to cultivate a mindset of continuous learning and adaptation. At the end of the day, for me, one of the biggest things I do is just stay curious. I take the time to read about emerging trends, engage in industry discussions. I enroll in courses that keep my skills sharp. I'm working on a PhD just to make sure my brain, can still absorb all the information that's required. So whether it's AI, cybersecurity, cloud computing, whatever, digital transformation, I guess is the big word right now, I make sure that I'm actively learning so that I can lead with insight and expertise. I really believe that one of the best ways to stay relevant is to teach others. So mentoring and coaching not only helps others grow, but it reinforces my own knowledge. So I seek out ways to mentor and coach others. When you're explaining a concept for me, I'm gaining deeper understanding for myself. So that's a way for me to continue to move forward. I also stay connected to innovative thinkers, whether through this organization, ITSMF, or industry conferences or networking with professionals, just really surrounding myself with people who are forward thinking. Really keeps me inspired and informed. And lastly, I embrace change. Technology will always evolve. And instead of fearing change, I see it as a real opportunity. So right now, the buzzword is Gen AI or automation, or if it's just new ways of working. I lean into the shifts and think about how they can be best leveraged really to create a better future.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Kenny, what would you add to that?
No, I think that's fantastic. I think one of the things that our membership could do, and we've done, is we try to make sure we bring in, I'll call them outside thinkers, people outside of our industry, people outside of our company, people outside of many of our geographic regions to come talk to us about what they've seen. And we've had some fascinating discussions about the future of work and the synthetic workers that will enter our workforce in, a large number, depending on your view of the future, in the next 2 years or the next 10 years. But I think that's one way, whether it is reaching out and having specific organizational kinds of discussions or identifying opportunities for you as an individual to go to places where you might not hear some of the typical technology language you would. Various conference, various meeting, invite some of those innovative thinkers, podcasts, et cetera. And so I do a good bit of that and try to do a good bit of that with our teams, do a good bit of reading on occasion. Well, more than on occasion, thank goodness. But I try to identify particularly books around emerging technology. There are wide versions or views of what our future is going to look like, and they can't all be right. And so somewhere along the way, to the point Kato made, we've got to get enough of that to be able to gather some insight to help our people identify what we think the view of the future will be.
There's no shortness of ways to learn between podcasts and webinars and online training and actually going to conferences. So I think the point around staying relevant and always continuing to learn is so critical in this era, and actually just in technology and being uncomfortable. It's okay to be uncomfortable with not knowing all of the technology and leaning into different areas that you're not used to leaning into. So I applaud you guys for staying ready and staying engaged, even when we have a tough schedule. It's hard to do all that, but we need to do it for sure. All right, so we are 12:40. We've got 5 more minutes. I'm just going to let everyone know that we appreciate the comments coming in. In about 5 minutes, we're going to start opening up for Q&A. But what I want to make sure is that we leave everyone with a couple of golden nuggets that you can, hopefully actionable, that you can walk away with. So if you could get ready to pop your question in the comments, The team will then do a softball pitch to me in a couple of minutes so that we can get some questions to our two esteemed panelists here. But Cato, if you had to look back, roll back that tape and say, talk to your younger self, what would you tell your younger self today based upon what you've known and what you've developed in your career?
Wow, let's see. What would I tell my younger self? I was pretty intense. So I'd probably tell my younger self, relax a bit. It's going to work out. But really, the most important thing is that competency matters, that the hard work you put in, the education, the hard work, understanding, learning, continuously evolving it and learning is table stakes, and it matters. And while for a lot of my career, I believe just hard work alone would advance me, it would get me to my career objectives. What I learned later in life, it took more than that. And I would tell my younger self to spend more time in the networking space, spend more time in building community, lean into, instead of just collecting mentors the way that I did, like shoes, but to lean into an understanding of what real sponsorship means and what it looks like. Because the older Cato now knows that what landed me here was strong. I happen to have two of the heavy hitters is from mentorship and sponsorship perspective, being in Larry Quinlan and Jackie Wright. But I'm fully aware that without that sponsorship, that I wouldn't be here today. So I would tell my younger self to really double down on that understanding. Great to have as many mentors as you need, but actively understand what sponsorship means and what it can do for you in the future.
Kenny, how about you? If you had to tell that younger gentleman, when you were, I think you went to Alabama where legends are made.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. Now you're the legend yourself. So what would you have told that younger self coming out of university?
Well, first of all, I would have told myself invest in technology stocks. Who knew how big they were really going to get? But Fern, as I think about that question, like my career has really been about building authentic relationships. And I think I would have told myself that, yes, you need sponsors, but the way to do that is through authentic relationships. And what I mean by that is, we all get in a room and we want to shake everybody's hand, and the person whose hand we want to shake, there's 50 other people that want to shake it. And having that person sponsor you is going to be difficult. Now, if I volunteer for something that maybe was out of my work capacity and I did well, and they saw me be able to drive success outside of having coercive ability on top of the people working, that's an authentic relationship. And so I would tell myself, continue to build authentic relationship, take calculated risks. There are times in my career where I had to go sideways to go up, or jump into a role that perhaps I wasn't as familiar with. And I always try to put those opportunities through a couple of filters. One with those roles, can I offer something right away? Maybe I don't know the technical aspect of it, but I'm good at the relationship side of it. Do I think it's going to be important long term? While there are lots of jobs that people are getting paid for me, thinking longer term, I don't always think those are going to be most important in the future. So I've got to make sure that whatever opportunity was presented to me that I felt really important, am I going to have fun? Part of that's, do I like the leader? Do I like the group? Do I think we've got a chance to make real impact and change? And so I try to take the calculated risks through that filter, and then always try to leave things better than you found it. And so whether that is, when we move into a different role, or even if we're, in the space that we're in, identifying where there can be real improvements has been job one for me. And so finding it, fixing it, doing that very early helps make sure that at the very least, the role that you went into is or the place that you're in is better than when you found it.
Excellent points. I'm going to add in just a few from myself, and you talked on it, Kenny, about risks. If I could tell my younger self to take more risks, I think that we tend to be so conservative and want it mapped out just so before we take that risk. There's so many opportunities on the other side of a good risk taken. And I always talk about that, and I would talk about especially to the younger generation. And I wish I told myself, you got to love the laterals. Sometimes you have to move laterally a few places before you can move up, and you get such critical experiences. So excellent points from both. Thank you so much for sharing those. Hopefully everyone has walked away with a few golden nuggets that you could hopefully tell yourself today. And if you're mentoring others, and I hope everyone is mentoring someone, because I'm a true believer that the only way that we can give it back and pay it forward is to not only seek out sponsors and be a sponsor, but be a mentor as well. So with that, we are going to turn ourselves into the open Q&A session. And so Dawn, I think, is going to be pitching to me. Please take a moment that we can put in your question that helped you, shape you as a leader, or things that you'd want to hear from Cato or from Kenny, and then we will move forward and have a nice little dialogue around their perspectives. Dawn, any questions?
I will say, Fern, I don't know how you guys put this panel together, but you happen to get an Auburn and a Alabama alumni.
Oh! So wait, so isn't that what do they call it? The Iron Bowl? Is that the Iron Bowl that happens at Thanksgiving?
It's the Iron Bowl, and people in Alabama take that really seriously. When I lived there, I was there for about a month before they asked me who you're for, and I said, well, I'm kind of for everybody. What? No, Alabama or Auburn.
You pick one. I'm from Alabama, and at birth, by first grade, you've decided what side you're on for life.
So I don't know how this New Yorker knows about the Iron Bowl or Auburn or Roll Tide, but I hate to say, Cato, I'm a Roll Tider.
I knew I liked you, Fern.
All right. Do we have any questions, Dawn?
It looks like there's one on the screen. Please share one of your.
Here we go. Please share your most poignant, teachable moments that shaped you as a leader.
Yeah, I'm happy to start. Mine was a pretty simple, but I think ultimately meaningful one. So a boss at the time who ultimately became a member, who is a mentor, who is now a friend, a guy named Steve Spencer at Alabama Power one time told me, he said, just remember every time that you walk through the cafeteria, and if you've ever been in the Alabama Power building, it's a big place where people gather, and there's lots of people from all over who come in outside of the company. And he said, just remember every time you walk through that cafeteria, people are making somewhere between 20 and 50 judgments about your character, unbeknownst to you. And they're trying to determine things that they shouldn't be, like how smart you are, like how arrogant you are, and all of those kinds of assessments people are making by just watching you walk through the cafeteria. So you can never do yourself harm by making sure you speak to everybody, you smile on your face. Like, those are simple things that you can control every day, wherever you are, that could impact people watching you that you never even thought of. And so I've always kept that one with me.
Makes perfect sense, Cato.
For me, I think what shaped my leadership style is I've pieced together this style from nuggets that I've taken from every great leader that I've had. But probably one of the most pivotal was early in my career, I was a lead developer, and I was so happy I'd landed this lead developer role. And at our kickoff meeting, our business sponsor, some VP of something, white guy, walks in and introduces himself, talks about how important this program is, said, let's get started, and looked at me and said, and I assume you're going to take the notes. Oh. And I was the leader of the group. I was the only girl, only female, and only Black person. And I didn't say anything. I just took the notes, and I'm a horrible note taker. But the next day, this lady comes in who happened to be his senior VP that he reported to. Her name was Char Bolin. I'll never forget her. She just lent me her credibility. She'd never met me. She just came up to me and said, hey, I'm so glad you took this opportunity. We're so happy that you're leading this program. And I just wanted to be like Char. Like, she just fixed that for me without me having to ask. So I think that's probably the most pivotal moment in my leadership style, is being a leader, showing up in a way that makes people want to model their behaviors after you. So
Love it, love it, love it. Also, I think the teachable moment is it's always about how you make people feel. And that's what people remember you. not how many servers you implemented or how many, they will remember the dollars you saved, but making people feel wanted, appreciated, nurtured is really important. All right, great question. Any other questions we have? Okay, so from Victor Roy. Hey, Victor from Dallas, welcome to the call. In the rapidly evolving tech landscape, what legacy skills or perspectives do you see becoming obsolete? And then what emerging competencies are now essential for our future leaders? Who wants to start that one?
Yeah, great question. I'll start. One of the things that we've been working on at Centerpoint is really trying to specifically identify some of those. And as we kind of look through our tech stack and where we thought things were going, I mean, much of the programmer infrastructure management suite of skills, specific language knowledge, specific legacy application support knowledge. Like we found a number of those that we thought ultimately will be handled in a different way. And so, we were moving towards a agile. We think agile, ultimately more companies will leverage agile capabilities. So things like coaches, things like scrum masters. But we also thought, as AI continues to permeate, not only in our own language models, but also through many of the applications and tools that we use today, the prompt engineering is going to be critical to the future. And so I think all of those skills around managing ultimately getting out of kind of managing the technology and ultimately leveraging the technology is where the trend is going. And, there's plenty of periodicals out there that lists those kind of specific skills. We cloud engineers, cloud architects, cloud security architects, we thought all were going to gain in importance going forward.
Yeah, I would agree. And I'll add a perspective on that, but let you answer the question as well.
Kenny covered it. I'll double down on that for the most part. But I would say what I do think may go away with the push towards citizens development and the and generative AI tools, that basic app developer role will no longer be needed. But at the end of the day, complex development is always going to be there. But if you are looking to be basic web developer, basic development, I think that is a skill that we now have technology that will eliminate that basic need.
And I think the relationship with the business, the business is much smarter today about technology and about the capabilities and how they want them embedded into how they're bringing their business to the forefront. So I think still having that business relationship and that technology relationship with the business, I still think is a critical skill that we'll need in the future years.
Yeah, I think that domain knowledge remains critical, but how to leverage that knowledge through the newer tools, I think will be even more critical.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. All right, I think we have time for one more question before we start to wrap up.
Fern, I'll jump in. I don't think that we have any other questions coming in, but I didn't know. I want to make sure you had time if you had any other final thoughts that you wanted to leave our audience with, for sure.
Well, yeah, thank you so much, Sherelle. So thank you, Kato and Kenny, for being a part of this Black History Makers virtual leadership series. It's our second, I want to say, and hugely successful. I'm going to claim it as hugely successful already. You have wonderful careers and will continue to lead and drive great impact in the work that you're doing. So thank you for what you've done thus far and what you will continue to do and for imparting on us knowledge. I always like to leave my panelists with a final word. So I'll pitch it to Kato, then you, Kenny, and then I'll close us out.
All right. Well, I'll leave with maybe a final word on just one of my core principles, and that really is to lead with purpose, not pressure. Which means making decisions that align with my values, my long-term goals, and the impact that I want to have. And I think each of us can all benefit from learning when to say no so that we can say yes to the things that matter the most and truly stay focused on what truly moves the needle that allow us to be the most effective and fulfilled.
Thank you, Cato. Kenny?
Yeah, thanks, Fern. I would encourage folks listening to build the right teams or be on the right teams. Part of that is assessing kind of some of the characteristics I mentioned earlier about where things are headed and are they valuable to you, et cetera. But we will drive success through teams, I think, in a bigger way in the future than in the past. Two is knowing yourself. There are lots of self-assessments, but ultimately knowing what you're good at, where your values are, what drives you is going to be really, really important to all of our futures. And then last thing I'll leave you with is be vulnerable. As things change, transparency tends to rule change. The people who are most transparent with it tend to get the most buy-in, that tends to be able to drive the change forward faster.
Hey, Kenny, I'm going to add to that. One of the quotes I always say is transparency creates trust. And the more transparency we can, the more trust we can build, and the faster we get to making an impact with the work that we're doing. All right, that's it, folks, friends, family, ITSMF family. Thank you so much for being a part of this Change Makers series. I'm going to turn it back to Sherelle, who has a couple of closing comments before we end out the hour session.
All righty. Thank you so much, Fern, Kenny, Cato. We cannot thank you all enough for taking the time out and being vulnerable and sharing your story with our audience. We are so grateful for you all. Again, to you guys that are tuning in, make sure you share this with someone. There was some great content here that we do not want to lose. So make sure that you share it. So before you guys drop off, we do have a couple of announcements that we want to remind you all of. If you enjoyed today's sessions, we want to ask you to complete our survey. This is a QR code on your screen here. It is a short survey, but this survey allows ITSMF to continue to provide great content, usable content that is suitable for you all. And so if we're not doing a good job, we want to know. If we're doing a great job, we still want to know. So make sure that you scan that QR code and provide us with that feedback. Our speakers would appreciate that feedback as well, so that we can continue to do great things for you all. S1 is right around the corner. Our room block is open. We see those rooms are flying. So registration is actually opening very, very soon. If I would encourage you to keep an eye out on your inbox very, very soon for that registration link. And you do not want to miss this. This event is guaranteed to sell out. So if you already have these dates on your calendar, be looking out for registration information. We will be in Houston, Texas, April 24th through the 26th. And so we're looking forward to seeing you there for our symposium and our Technology Leaders Awards ceremony. And then, of course, our Global Institute for Professional Development. You heard Johanna mention it earlier. Applications are open for all three of our academies. And the deadline to apply is March 31st. So all of the information is on screen for Management Academy, Emerge Academy, and Executive Academy. So again, if you are interested in enrolling in any of these programs, or you know someone that should check it out, make sure that you send this information to them. Again, that deadline is March 31st. And then also, Fern mentioned this earlier, ITSMF is excited to announce our AI certification course. Sessions will start on March 3rd. And so if you are interested in learning more about that, we had a couple of information sessions, but you can go to our website at itsmfleaders.org/offering so that you can learn more about this AI certification. We are partnering with Alicia Little with AI Innovision. So we are really, really excited about this opportunity that is available for you all. And I believe, I do. Yes, we have another event next week. How could I forget? We are launching our Women's History Month event, which is going to be on March 6th. It will be virtual again here in StreamYard. It will be at 4:30 Eastern. And so we encourage you to register for that event as well. We'll do it through StreamYard. It'll be live streamed also through LinkedIn. So make sure that you're following us on those social media platforms so that you can stay up to date with all of our events. This program will be focusing on accelerating action and empowering women in cybersecurity and AI. So we look forward to having you all back here in StreamYard and LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook for the live stream. And of course, and always, membership is available with ITSMF. We do have our executive and associate membership. As a reminder, as a member, you do get complimentary access to our symposium, and registration is going live. So we want to make sure that you go ahead. And if you're interested in membership or you need to renew your membership, you can contact membership at itsmfleaders.org for more information or next steps. And with that, I believe that we are complete. Again, thank you guys for tuning in. Johanna, thank you for opening us up with those motivating words. Again, Fern, Cato, Kenny, we really appreciate you sharing your knowledge with everyone today. You guys see all of the great things that they had to say today in our chat. So we appreciate you guys as well. And we look forward to continuing to providing these opportunities for you to continue to engage with ITSMF. Thank you all and have a great day.